My lord, obviously that led to the events that took place on the 30th of May 2020. That is now when accused one was arrested for the Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019.
Can you just maybe explain how did this case docket come to the fore, the Tembisa case 2173 of 2019?
Yes, my lord. So it came about through the cold case analysis. As I've said, when we had sight on them, we did a profiling, and that profiling under cold case analysis kicked out a number of dockets that were unresolved, basically where they were suspects and the matters were not finalized. So we zoom into that matter, and this Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019 was one of the matters where the warrant of arrest was issued on that matter. But I do know that there were also two matters in forced arrest of attempted murder, and there were warrants there also, my lord. So it was cases that came out due to the profiling of the suspects. The purpose, really, my lord, also in adopting this strategy was to have them on site, but also try and get things that we didn't have, like DNA, fingerprints that we can compare in this matter. In other words, we deal with them with matters that were already committed or alleged offenses that they've been alleged to have committed, while we look at exhibits or evidence that we can collect from them and deal with it here. And the court would have seen that at some stage DNA were taking and they were comparison and so forth, because we're trying to read them into what we had on the docket. Yes, my lord. So like I said, I'm not sure should I deal with now the confession, because
yes, we can now deal with the events of the 30th of May 2020.
Yes. So now fast tracking to that date, my lord, I received a call from Sergeant Mukula to say his accused one has been arrested in relation to that matter.
Which matter?
Tembisa case, the drug dealing in drugs under Tembisa case 217 of 3/2019. And I may also add, my lord, that I was also briefed that in the midst of I think the search of him or something around those lines, that there were ammunitions that were found. So in that briefing, I was also told that they also found him with unlicensed ammunition.
Yes. You've already testified in detail during the trial within a trial.
Yes.
As to the events of the 30th of May 2020. But can you maybe just with a broad brush just highlight your evidence regarding the events of the 30th of May 2020?
My lord, what I can then say is that I was informed that they were going to foster us to follow up on the other matters against accused one. I then requested them to meet me at the police station so that I can interview him myself with regard to the reporting that I received that he seems to be making some form of admission in relation to this matter before court. My lord,
who reported to you that he was making admissions?
It's Sergeant Mukula. My lord, after meeting him, obviously one embarked on the formalities in terms of the constitutional rights and so forth. It was clear that indeed he was willing freely, without any duress, to make confession, and subsequent to that, Colonel Mboto was then arranged to assist with the taking down of the confession. And that he was in his clear and sober senses, my lord. According to my observations, that's what I saw, and he also told me that he didn't take any intoxicating substances. My lord,
before you arrange with Lieutenant Colonel Mboto, you mentioned that you warned him according to his constitutional rights.
That's correct, my lord. Yes, I did.
Now, what came up in your discussions with him, and where did this discussion take place?
At Fosoras, he was in a car, my lord, the red Golf, the police car. So.
And what time was it?
My lord, it was after 1900 hours.
Yes, and in the trial, within the trial, you explain in detail what constitutional rights you explained to accused number one.
It is correct, my lord.
Did you introduce yourself?
Yes. So first I was introduced when by the member Sergeant Mukula, and then I introduced myself for my lieutenant.
As you introduced yourself as
a police officer, my lord, by showing him my identity card in terms of my rank and who I am, and where I'm stationed, my lord.
Yes.
Yes, my lord. So then that led now obviously to the discussion and subsequently Colonel Moto being arranged for the confession, my lord.
Can you maybe elaborate more on the discussion? What came up in the discussions?
Well, what came out in the discussion, my lord, prior to now Colonel Moto coming on board, is that he was implicating himself as being one of being at the crime scene, but excluding himself as being the perpetrator. I remember his response to say, I was there, but I'm not the shooter, I'm not the one who killed Senzo. But perhaps to put it in the right context or sequence, my lord, one can say before we came to that, it is when, because I warned him twice with the rights, my lord. First, I warned him just after I was introduced. Then I asked the members to excuse me, to establish that he can speak to me freely and voluntarily if he was not threatened in any way. Then I warned him, and as I was warning him, I was establishing responses now, the second time. In terms of the lawyer, what does he want to do? Does he want to speak to me? When I got affirmative that he is willing to freely and speak to me voluntarily, my lord, and he understood the consequences of making confessions if he makes such, I then put it to him that I have a reason to believe that he was involved in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. And the response I referred to came in that context to say, yes, I was involved, but I'm not the shooter. And he mentioned the names of Marco as the shooter, and I think Makimbi is one of the people who were there. My lord, I seem to recall, he referred to Marco and Makimbi Buteleza. I remember, I seem to recall that names and the surnames being given by him, my lord. I further recall, my lord, that when I established from him as to whether was there anyone that they informed or if anyone knows about what he did, he then said the only person they spoke to was a traditional healer. I think he called him Umkulu, who stays in Pambridge, but it was clear that he doesn't know the address, but he said he is willing to identify the place where this traditional healer is situated. I further recall, my lord, that he said also the crime scene, he doesn't know the physical address, but he can identify it, and he was willing freely and voluntarily to identify such a place. There was also a willingness freely, my lord, without any undue influence for him to make a statement to an independent officer freely and voluntarily, and that led to the confession now that was taken by Kenyan Mboto. And I can confirm, my lord, that when I received back the statement, obviously I'm just going ahead, I may have to go back. When I received the said confession document from Kenyan Mboto in a day or two, I noted that what he told me was contained in that statement, maybe with more details, more than he told me, but the essence of what he told me was included in that statement.
Yes. In the trial within trial, you've already referred to this statement that was made to Lieutenant Mboto, which served as Exhibit FF before this court.
Correct, my lord, I did refer to it.
Yes, you may proceed.
So after the confession was taken, my lord, he was brought back to me because I was at the provincial office, and I established that he was still okay, which was in affirmative. I further asked him if he was willing to identify the place where this traditional healer could be found, and he said yes, he was willing to do that. I then
just a minute. More or less, what time was it?
It was after midnight, my lord. So I'll say between 12 midnight and 1, because by 1 a.m. we had parted ways, but it was between those times.
Yes.
My lord, when he said yes, he was willing to do that, I then referred him to Sergeant Mahula to say she will come and follow up, that information, and that should he change his mind or require any assistance, be it legal at his expense or state expense, in terms of the rights that I've given him, he should feel free to do so, and we parted ways. Now, my lord, on the early evening of the 31st of May 2019, because these discussions started leading to the confession on the 30th, and we parted ways on the early hours of the 31st, just after midnight. Then on the 31st of May 2020, in the early evenings, then I was phoned by Sergeant Mahula to say they found the traditional healer, and we arranged to meet at the provincial office that I was using.
And where was the provincial office?
It was in Eraton, my lord. It was the provincial office of the detectives. It's still there, it's still situated there. So I then went to the provincial office, my lord. Then I was introduced to Mr. Zwane, Lionel Zwane, who was then the alleged traditional healer who would have cleansed
Just take it one step at a time. Who introduced you to Mr. Zwane?
It was the members, Sergeant Mukula, I think I remember Sergeant Mukula introduced me to him, and I also introduced myself. That's the routine I wrote. And I warned him according to his rights, because I was sitting with certain information that implicates him in having a knowledge about the matter before this court.
And Mr. Zwane has also testified before this court, is that correct?
That's correct, Lionel Zwane, my lord. Now, my lord, while I was interacting with him, I do recall that the SWAT team that was assisting with the escort of members then came in that office with accused number one. They walked in unplanned. Now, and accused one, my lord, I recall that he was leg ironed and he was cuffed in front as well, my lord. Yes. So the handcuff could have been in front of back, but I know that he was cuffed, my lord, and leg irons. Now, when he walked in, my lord, Mr. Zwane, they looked at each other, and I recall Mr. Zwane saying, he said it in Zulu, my lord, I'll try to translate in English, but in Zulu he said, "How mfana kasbiya waboshwa kangaka kwenze njani?" That was his statement. Maybe I will not be able to translate it verbatim, my lord, but in essence he was shocked, to say, why is he cuffed in this manner? That is the essence of what saying, to say you are arrested, but why in this fashion? The response, my lord, from accused one was to the extent, insofar as I can recall, that it is that matter we came to cleanse for the killing of Senzo Meyiwa.
So, now approach accused number one before we... Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Yes, we can then come back to the events of the night of the 31st of May.
Yes, my lord. So after the warning, after that was said, then I obviously warned accused number one that what he was saying amounts to a confession, and I cautioned him about the rights that I gave him, and the response was that, but it is the truth, he's telling the truth. My lord, I then asked the members to remove him, where I continued then the interview with Mr. Zwane.
I just want to briefly put on record the evidence of Mr. Zwane in this respect. These are the proceedings of the 4th of September 2023, and if you can refer to page 22, page 22.
Yes, I'm here, my lord.
If you can just place on record the sentence starts with Mr. Zwane.
So it says, now when I first met with Sibiya, they came to me in the company of 3. So there were 3 of them. Now the person that I directly communicated or interacted with was this Sibiya that I'm referring to, just as I am talking to the interpreter now. This is the same person that I directly interacted with, this Sibiya.
Yes, and same page 22.
Yes, it reads
line 14. There
Yes.
was Mr. Zwane.
Indeed, my lord. Yes, so it reads as follows. Now when Sibiya and them came to me, they came to me as people that were in need of work. They were referred to me by somebody I do not know, but eventually they came to me and they said that they needed some work. They wanted to go, market for work and find work. Now I had to give them some herbal medicine for cleansing purposes, and I said to them, here is the product. You can go and cleanse yourself with this product, and thereafter you can go and search for work.
Then on page 24, same proceedings of the 4th of September 2023, line 12.
Yes, it reads.
Maybe it starts at line 11.
Yes,
Mr. Zwane. Yes.
Beg your pardon, my lord. Yes, it reads as follows, Mr. Zwane. I do not know what then transpired after that. I only saw him coming back again, this Sibiya, to me. And then from Mr. Baloyi, question is, how long after the first consultation did Sibiya come back to Mr. Zwane? Perhaps after 2 to 3 days, he then came back to me.
Yes, then line 19.
Line 19 reads as follows, my lord, under Mr. Zwane. Now the second time around, I cannot ascertain as to the number of people that came. Safe to say that this very Sibia came for the first time. Sorry, I beg your pardon, my lord. Maybe let me start from the beginning. Now the second time around, I cannot ascertain as to the number of the people that came. Safe to say that this very Sibia that came for the first time to consult with me, he came the second time around to indicate that that job has been done. Now he says to me where they had gone to search for work, there is someone that had sustained some injury there.
And then page 25 from line 11.
Line 11 under Mr. Zwane, my lord, says, I do not know in terms of your cultural background, but with us, when somebody has passed on within the family, there is some ritual cleansing of the members of the family. The same principle I applied here when they came, because they cross path with misfortune, and as a result I had to assist them for ritual cleansing. After that, I helped them only with 2 things.
On page 29, from line 14.
Okay. It reads as follows. I am just a person that has to help. I am a helper of people. Where I was standing, they took a picture or a photograph of me from where I was standing. They handcuffed me, then they took a picture of me, and then they showed it to somebody, and that particular person will then say, this is they handcuffed me after that particular person said. Let me explain that when I walked out of the house, I was not handcuffed. Okay, let me just read all of it. Now when I got, I'm reading as it is, my lord. Now they took pictures of me right there at the street, and then I was handcuffed at the street. Let me just explain it this way. I eventually got to the police station while handcuffed, and while at the police station there.
Then finally on page 30, from line 1.
Okay, line 1 reads as follows, my lord. I said the Sibia young man who was coming. I said the Sibia young man who was coming from the proximity could be from here, perhaps to the door there. And I was asked. He was handcuffed and feet as well. I asked him, young man, what happened? That inquiring from the Sibia young man. Then the prosecutor, my lord, asked, yes, and just a minute, could you recognize that person that you saw there at the police station? Could you recognize that person that you say it is Sibia? Then Mr. Zwane replies as follows, this is the very person that I had a very close interaction with, that we were facing each other at a very closer proximity, and the others were just adjacent to where he was, just like these ones that are seated behind me here. But one is the very person that we had a face-to-face interaction with. I could then tell that this is the Sibia young man. And then Mr. Baloyi says yes, and then Mr. Zwane, my lord, goes further to say, now I do not recall which police officer I spoke to me, and right there at that police station, there were many police officers, and he said to me, do you know this person? Do you recognize this person? I then replied, I say, yes, I know this person. He is the same person that came to me. This is Sibia.
Now, what is your comment regarding this version of Mr. Zwane?
My lord, it's in line with what I recall, although he's not explicit with regards to say but he does make reference to the handcuffs and coming, seeing him. And it is correct that when they brought him to me on the 31st, he was in a company of other police officers. Like I said, there was a SWAT team that was assisting. Sergeant Mpola was there. So they were police officers. So it's in line with my recollection of our interaction, my lord. And what is prominent, my lord, is the fact that he does mention that there was a cleansing, because that was really the essence of me wanting to speak to him, to establish what is it that was said. As accused number one told me that during the cleansing process, they told this traditional healer. So he makes mention of the cleansing.
This police station that Mr. Zwane refers to, what does it refer to?
Look, my lord, it was brought, I think as a layman one will understand. It was the provincial office. It's the building that belongs to the police. I think it was referring to where we met at the provincial office in Araten, my lord.
Yes, you may continue. You mentioned that you administered another warning to accused number one. He then said he must be removed.
Yes,
and you continued with the interview of Mr. Zwane. What happened further?
Yes, upon establishing, my lord, that he was collaborating, most of the facts, there were just some small differences, and that, if I recall correctly, my lord, it was in relation of whether he knew before they went, because they came twice in my recollection or not. The inconsistencies were simply there. Then, my lord, I then decided that a statement from him rather should be obtained, and I requested then Colonel Mutlambe, who was the commander of the anti-corruption unit of the Hawks, the DPCI in Germiston, to assist in taking this statement under Section 204 of Act 51 of the Criminal Procedure Act of CPA of 1977.
And if we can just get back to the proceedings of the 4th of September 2023, at page 23, line 18.
Line 18, yes,
you
my
can
lord.
just put that on record.
Okay. I usually charge them 100 per consultation. Okay, let me start at the beginning now.
Yes, you
Okay,
proceed. Yes, proceed.
I usually charge them 100 per consultation, but on that day, they gave me 500 for the work that I have finished to them. And that is under Mr. Zwane's testimony, my lord.
Yes, thank you. You may proceed. You arranged that a statement be obtained from Mr. Zwane in terms of Section 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act.
Indeed, my lord. So Mr. Zwane was taken to Colonel Mutlame, and I do know that the statement was then obtained from him, my lord. And I better know that he was then taken home, my lord, and accused number one, I think, was taken back to detention, if I recall correctly. Then, my lord, on the 1st of June, because this was the 31st of May, on the 1st of June 2020, and that's when now he made his first appearance in Tembisa in relation to Tembisa case 217 of 2019. That is the warrant that was executed on him on the 30th when he was arrested. So he made his first appearance on the 1st of June 2020, my lord. No bail was granted on that day, my lord, and he was remanded back into custody. Now, my lord, on the 4th, and that is following up on our last discussion when I spoke to him the first time, I then went to see him on the 4th of June 2020. I warned him according to his constitutional rights again, my lord.
So where did you go to see him?
It was in Valeria, my lord, Valeria SAPS. Yes, my lord. So I warned him according to his constitutional rights. I've covered that as well in my written trial evidence. But the essence of it was to establish if he is still willing to point out the crime scene, and the answer was yes, my lord. And this willingness, my lord, as I mentioned it during the written trial, was made freely and voluntarily, my lord. My lord, then that led me to phoning around until I got assistance from Lieutenant Colonel Khatebe, with an understanding that the accused must be taken to Albertine Police Station on the 5th of June 2020, that is the following day, where he would then take it from there, my lord, for the pointing out. Sergeant Mukhane, my lord, was given that task, in other words, of moving accused number one from Valeria to that station, which is Albertine, and coordinating that arrangement with Colonel Khatebe. So I gave the numbers to each other so that they communicate. Now, my lord, I do know that indeed the pointing outs were done on the 5th of June 2020, and when I received not the same day. So maybe let me deal with it in sequence, my lord. So when it was done, I would then receive the confession form, the pointing out form first, and then subsequent to that, in a couple of days, then I received the photo album of the pointing outs. Now, what I noted, my lord, in particular on the photos, is that in some of the photos accused one is seen pointing at a scene, and that place that is pointing at, because I've been there, I went to visit the scene. It's actually the crime scene. It's number 13511 Kutwano Street, Phosphorus. That is the crime scene, or that are the place where the deceased in this matter was shot, and he took the pointing out officer to that address. I also recall, my lord, that I saw a photo of a pointing out next to Basutino Hostel, or rather around there on the street, and that is in line with what the investigation was saying, that they would have met in that hostel before the incident was executed, and then met after, and thereafter he was dropped after the incident, my lord. So that location, because I know that place as well, my lord, it is situated around the Basutino Hostel. My lord, what I also forget, if I can just take the quote back, I forgot to mention it when I was talking to him on the 30th. This is now when he was making assertion or admitting to his involvement in the killing of the deceased. One of the things that he mentioned was that this murder, it was a contractual killing that was given to them by then the girlfriend of the deceased, Ms. Kelly Kumalo.
At which point did you mention that?
It was during our interaction outside at the parking lot of the police station, my lord, in Phosphorus. That is prior to him being handed over to Colonel Mboto, before we moved to Everton. Now, my lord, I'm saying the part of the girlfriend because when I looked at the statement that was taken by Colonel Mboto, and also the pointing out, because Lieutenant Colonel had also made some notes, that part as to who sent them to kill the deceased is mentioned. That was the name of Kelly Kumalo. It's there. So that aspect was then corroborated as well. Furthermore, my lord, the issue of the crime scene that he told me about was corroborated in this pointing out because, as I said, I know the crime scene. The photos were taken of him standing outside the house, and that part then was also corroborated. That when he said, "I do not know the address, but I can point out the scene," he pointed out the correct crime scene where the deceased in this matter was killed. The other collaboration, my lord, it was in relation to the traditional doctor, because what transpired on the 31st, he took them, he pointed out where the traditional doctor was residing. The traditional doctor was brought to me, and his assertion and the communication and subsequent statement that he made was a collaboration of the statement, the confession that he made, my lord.
You mentioned that you received the pointings out form that was handed up as Exhibit GG during the trial within a trial.
Yes, my lord.
And you also mentioned photos that were taken during the pointings out, which were handed up as Exhibit GG in brackets 1.
Correct,
during the trial within a trial.
I did mention them, correct, my lord.
I want to show you photos of Exhibit GG in brackets 1. This is a photo album compiled by Sergeant Mapakela, taken during the pointings out. In particular, I wish to draw your attention to photo number 14.
Indeed, my lord. So, photo number 14, but as well as photo number 15, depicts the outside house, the crime scene basically. This is the house where the deceased was shot and killed.
Photo 16?
Yeah, sorry, my lord. Maybe just to put that into the right context so that I'm not misquoted. So this is where he was shot, and then he was certified dead at the hospital. So he wasn't certified dead at the scene, but this is where the incident took place. And then at 21:15, when he arrived at Chilong Hospital, he was then certified dead, my lord. This is the 21:15 of the 26th of October 2014, my lord.
I just want to refer you to the photo album of Lieutenant Colonel Mhlatlo, which serves as Exhibit D before this court.
Yes, my lord.
Photo number 2. Photo number 1 and 2.
Yes, my lord.
Yes, what is your comment?
So photo 1 and 2, my lord, it depicts the same house, the crime scene. In other words, it depicts the same house that is contained in the photo album of the pointing out in photo 14 and 15. The only difference, my lord, is that the photos that were taken by Lieutenant Colonel Mutlatlo back in 2014, there was no black gate, steel gate. So in the photos that were taken on the 5th of June 2020 by the photographer who was in the company of Colonel Hadebe, there is a gate. So the difference is the gate and the paving, but the house is the same, the brick structure and the wall. And the photo number 2 of Colonel Mutlato's album, my lord, exhibits rather, also depicts the grayish brownish BMW X6, and this vehicle, because you can see the registration number, is the vehicle that belonged to the deceased, Mr. Senzo Meyiwa. Yes.
Photo 16 of exhibit GG in brackets 1.
Yes, photo 16, my lord, also points the accused number 1 is still at the scene, is pointing at the crime scene. This is the crime scene.
And photo number 19 of exhibit GG1.
Photo number 19, my lord, is pointing, this is the evidence I refer to, is pointing, there's a main road and is pointing down, but if one looks at, and if you read this in conjunction with the pointing out comments, that's the situation, that is a spot which is situated or next to Basutuni Hostel.
I'm going to object. I'm going to object. Yes. And Brigadier Gininda is trying to come with his own analysis. The pointing out is a very specific thing. It's either you pointed a specific thing without there being, without the information that is being interpreted out, which is being pointed out being interpreted. Now he is feeding this court what he thinks could have been pointed the day on which the alleged pointing out was made.
When I was listening to him, and I listened very carefully,
Yes.
he says, I know that spot. That's what he premised.
He is now talking about Basutu Hostel.
Yes, he says he knows that. Didn't you say that?
I said exactly that, my lord.
He says, I know that spot.
I said exactly
That is where they say they left, and that is where they say they came back to.
My lord, he is saying, he's pointing at the tar road, and this tar road is at Basutu Hospital. We can drive now to check if. But what I'm saying, my lord, if it needs to be.
Mr. Minister,
Yes, my lord.
they argue that.
No, but my lord, this is not a point to be argued. It needs to be taken up now so that it needs to be corrected. Because the court will then later on come and say, but why didn't you raise your objection then? This is the reason I'm raising this objection, my lord.
Under cross-examination, you can put it to the brigadier that you were wrong by this and this and this.
Am I therefore not allowed
You want to
to object
cross-examine
now?
him. You want to cross-examine him during the time when he's giving his testimony. I don't know that procedure. So you can keep that evidence if you say he's wrong or he's lying to put it strongly.
Thank you,
And
my lord.
when you cross-examine him, you can point out how he's lying.
Thank you, my lord. But I think this served to check the minds of my colleague and myself as well. Thank you, my lord.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Court, please, I think Advocate Minister will be well advised to read Section 209 of the Criminal Procedure Act.
What does 209 say? Let's read it because we forget these things.
Section 209 reads as follows. Conviction may follow on confession by the accused. An accused may be convicted of any offense on the single evidence of a confession by such accused that he committed the offense in question. And the following part is important. If such confession is confirmed in a material respect, or where the confession is not so confirmed, if the offense is proven by evidence other than such confession to have actually been committed. Now, my lord, we've been through a trial within a trial. The confessions have been allowed. At this point, what the investigating officer is trying to do is just to try and connect the doors to show that this spot that was pointed out by the accused accords with the objective evidence.
May I respond, my lord? Oh, I'm sorry, my colleague wants to object. Yes, but I'm also prepared to respond as well.
My lord, we're all aware of the provisions of Section 219, which the state has just read. The gist of the objection is not on the provisions, my lord, of Section 219. The gist of the objection is on the explanation that is given by the witness, wherein he says the picture depicted in photo so and so, wherein the accused is pointing, it means it's pointing, and it starts to give the explanation on the description to say it means the accused was pointing at this and this, my lord. So the objection is on that this witness cannot give explanation to say what was being pointed out or what was being shown, my lord, because pointing out will have notes to say on this position when the accused pointed this is what was pointed out. It will be recorded there. It does not necessarily mean that the investigating officer has to come and explain to say what is it that was pointed out by the accused, which is not the correct information or evidence contained in that exhibit, my lord.
How do you say that? You've got the right to cross-examine this witness until Mandela is risen from the dead. That's your right. But you can't stop a person giving evidence like he is evidence in chief and cross-examine him whilst he's doing that. You have every right to cross-examine him. You have every right to put your client's version there. You have every right to interrogate the photos and show him what you're saying. These photos don't show. Okay, you have that right. So
yes,
please.
yes, I agree, my lord. We do have the right to cross-examination at a later stage.
But you can't stop him.
But also, my lord, as we are the defense representing the accused, my lord.
Cholo,
Yes,
I say you can't do it.
Yes.
At this stage.
Yes, my lord, I'm responding to that, my lord. I said, yes, my lord, we agree with the court that we do have a right to do cross-examination. However, if it appears from the defense that something wrong is happening in court when the evidence is led, we have a right to raise an objection, my lord. If the objection is overruled, there is no problem, we will proceed. But we do have a right to point it out to the court and to raise an objection on the unfairness that is happening in court when it appears to us, my lord. That's my submission.
Yes, okay.
If the objection is overruled, my lord, it should appear on the record that the objection was overruled, then we proceed, my lord. But it shouldn't be as if we left it and it was allowed to go through when we could see that it was wrong, my lord. Thank you, my lord.
So, please, my lord, there's no unfairness, as my colleague is arguing. A confession or pointing out on its own cannot just stand on its own. It's got to be supported by objective facts. And the only way is if the investigating officers, a spot has been pointed out, that spot accords with my knowledge of the crime scene. That's how you add weight to the confession, because on its own, hence Section 209 says there has to be evidence aliunde or confirmation of the confession or the pointings out in a material respect. And that is what the investigating officer is indicating, to show that there's confirmation, there's corroboration. That's perfectly in order.
Yeah, but as you know, the defense has got the right to cross-examine.
Yes.
Am I correct, sir?
Indeed, my lord.
Yeah. And that right is immutable. I can't stop anybody wanting to cross-examine a witness who has made a certain observation which the defense disagrees with. And you can put it to Brigadier Gininda that he is wrong here, he's not stating the facts. The facts are this and that and that and that and that. Okay, let's proceed.
As the court please, my lord.
My lord, again.
I wanted to refer my colleagues to comment on
It's a ruling that we can proceed. My colleague says he wants to refer us to something. Is that not an issue for argument as well? Because the manner in which he's doing it, we are going to request tomorrow when we come back that we should counter what he is trying to refer us to by also referring him to certain authorities as well. This is highly procedural. Otherwise, he's overruling the court when he says he wants to refer us to something when the court has said that we can proceed.
He wants to educate the court. You're trying to call the case. We are thinking you wanted to case.
No, just wanted to buttress the point, but I'll leave it at that. You can proceed.
Yeah, he needs to be very specific. If he wants to educate the court, he must state it that I want to educate the court, because I am not interested in his education. I'm educated enough to be educated by him.
Yes, we can proceed, Brigadier Gininda. You were at photo number 19.
Yes, my lord. But my lord, can I just say the following? And because I've said it in my evidence, and I think I dealt with it during the cross-examination on the main trial, on the trial within trial. Photos, as much as they can tell thousands ways, they don't speak. When these confessions was taken, the confessions, the written one, and the photos, I needed to corroborate what was said. That's how you make sense of the confession. You can't take it on the face value and say, this person has said this, it's written there, it's the gospel truth. You must corroborate it. Collaboration means there's a suspect or an accused pointing a scene. Where is this place he's pointing? When I said I know this place, my lord, it's because I had to go to these places and collaborate. Where was the car stationed? Where was he placing? Is the place he is pointing collaborate with what we have in evidence? That's how you build a case. Mr. Mnesi was the prosecutor for the state. He ought to know that. Secondly, my lord, page photo 21 on exhibit GG1. Photo 21, you can see clearly the hostel behind. The car that was driving the accused, that is accused number 1, is depicted there. Behind it in photo 21, you can see the building of the hostel. So it will not then make sense, my lord, to say, and this is a process I had to embark on to corroborate what was contained in his statement, as well as the statement of accused number 2. And furthermore, my lord, that did indicate that I was looking at this photo album in relation to the notes that were made by the pointing out officer. And I think that deals with what Mr. Mchololo was saying, Mano, that it's not like I was just looking at a document, interpreting it in my own way. I wanted to see if it can be collaborated or not, because that's how investigations are done, my lord. And lastly, my lord, that I've said, I know this place, I stand by that, I definitely know it. And if that is in dispute, we can do the inspection in loco. Mr. Mnesi, we can come, we can go to this place, my lord.
Are you done with the inspection on photos 19 and 20?
Yes, 19, 20, as well as 21, my lord, because photo 21 shows the hostel. You can actually see the buildings clearly of photo 21.
We can go back to your evidence.
Yes, my lord.
So what happens after after receiving the pointings out form as well as the photo album?
So, my lord, as I said, I looked at the collaboration, which I've just indicated that I found. They were obviously then filed in the docket, and then we carried on with the investigation, my lord.